I think you're amazing.
You are too, Henry.
Thank you so much. Well, Perry, you are awesome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, and I appreciate you what you're doing too, buddy.
Well, thank you. Because if you allow the world to define you, if you allow friends to define you, if you allow your spouse to define you, or anybody to define you outside of how God sees you, that does open the door to rejection. God bless you. I hope y'all have an amazing day.
Thank you, Brother Henry.
Thank
God
you.
bless you too. Thank you for having us.
Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Henry Harris. Today we will be discussing why do men suffer in silence, and we hope that today's program will inspire many men out there today to know how to unpack and share their emotions, their feelings, and destroy the stigma that men should always appear strong and have it all together, because God knows I don't.
Makes two of us.
The only, yes, sir. The only way to experience true freedom is that you have to be real with yourself and your struggles. This interview will change your whole outlook on life, and if you are portraying an image that's not you, we believe that in today's episode will help you to walk in authenticity. And today, what an honor to have my special guest, Fredrick James. He's from Durham, North Carolina. And Fredrick, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Brother Henry, for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Yes, sir. And we were discussing this, and I just want to let the people know that's watching. I appreciate Fredrick and his work, and not only just him as a person, but also his presentation. I believe that presentation is king. I told him this in a conversation yesterday that the way he articulates things, and it just brings about a lot of clarity. And when he speaks, people listen. And I just think you're a great speaker. You captivated my attention and helped me on my journey in this life as well. So I want to say thank you so much for doing that.
You are so welcome. That feeling is mutual. You have also done some wonderful works I've been watching.
Well, thank you so much. You know, there are many people out there today that don't think that men suffer in silence. But I guess the ultimate question I want to start out asking you is, why do men suffer in silence? Like, what's your take on that?
As I thought about this subject matter earlier today, I thought about the fact that we have created such an environment in the religious world, and it spills over into the secular world because a lot of times the government and all says that they're Christians or whatever, they tie into some of the major religious organizations. Even we had some presidential candidates that were Mormons, some that were Jewish, some Catholic. I think Joe Biden is a Catholic. They tie back to the Judeo-Christian world in a pretty big way in this country, and they set a stage for us when they say that we're born in sin, shaped in iniquity. It's almost like an indictment on your life to say that your very presence on the planet is a threat, or it's a curse, and something has to be done in order for you to be usable, or something to legitimize your presence and to say that you're safe. So if you're not deemed as a safe person, then no one's going to create a safe space for you. So both men and women suffer in silence, but women seem to have a stronger network. And I understand, some of the dynamics of that because they go through unique things. But men are given this we're given this decree that we have to present ourselves in a certain way, and we, of course, in this patriarchal, toxic, masculine society, we're expected to move mountains and build families, build a society, and commandeer the home, and all of those other aspects of what they deem a man is supposed to be. And it puts a lot of pressure on men, and it shows. It shows.
Yeah, most definitely do. And I told you a little bit about my childhood. Well, and that's a question I want to ask you too as we get later into this episode, because growing up, I think a lot of what people experience is what was spoken over us. As far as, being told, men need to be strong, men need to be tough, men don't cry. I was taught all those things. I was taught all those things growing up, and I lived up to that until I broke it. And I discovered that it caused me to create, I'm talking about as a man, it caused me to create a cave. I wouldn't let nobody in it. It's affected my marriages in the past. It's affected relationships I've been in, because it was just hard to really trust. Because when, like you said, when you have to live up to a certain like expectation, and that's another reason why I don't really like that quote that sometimes women quote. They'll say, "Well, a real man needs to be doing this and doing that." Well, that depends on your definition of a real man. Real men don't cry. Real men are strong. Okay, what if I exhibit something that's opposite to what you think a real man should be? Does that disqualify me from being a real man?
Absolutely not. And even when I look back at in Egypt,
So
we look at the pharaohs and we look at all of those strong warriors and fighters back in the and back in Africa and all of that, when they had the pharaohs and all of that. Those guys wore dresses. So there's any stereotype that the Western world gives us, we need to abolish that immediately, because that does not represent a man. Just because he can put on pants and put a suit on and a necktie does not make him a man. And just because a woman can put on a dress doesn't make her a woman. The men, that false expectation of a man to maintain a certain energetic or characteristic dynamic, whatever his expected behavior is and his duties and all. Not all men are created the same. We all have different gifts. Some of us sing, some of us dance, some of us play piano, some of us are car mechanics. I mean, some of us can go across the board. I surprised some of my friends when I knew how to work on cars and build walls and put up sheetrock and all that kind of stuff. But then I could sit down and play the piano and sing too, and cook. But some of those things, I wouldn't say I was pressured into it, but it was kind of like the environment that I was brought up in. That's what men did. And so I wanted to fit in, and I couldn't just sit down. I started crocheting at one point. I should have had one of my pieces up here. I crocheted, and my uncle told my mom, "You're going to make a girl out of him." So I quit crocheting. But I worked well with my hands, and it actually took me into the manufacturing world, where I did microelectronics and electronics and mechanical assembly, and became team leaders and managers, in that world. And it was because I could use my hands. But I was told that doctors that do surgery, they also crochet to get their skill level up with the movements of their hands. I was like, look, there you go. We would never know that a doctor actually used a crochet or a knitting needle to get his skills up. But we demonize it or stigmatize that behavior, and create spaces where men don't feel safe being themselves. And we really, it's really something that we're working through. I think the society is starting to accept more, but we still have a lot of men that suffer in silence.
The next question is, as it relates to mental health of men, this concept of be quiet, keep it to yourself. Could this belief originate from our childhood? I'm not saying it always does, but I mean, can it?
It absolutely stems back to our childhood when we are conditioned and taught how to behave. And one of the, something that came to me today was that when we um, when we operate in those modalities and we're not able to let off the pressure, let off the steam, or be ourselves, we're actually impeding the energy and the creativity of the creator to come through us, because we're all emanations from God. All of us are created in the image and likeness of God. So we represent, or we represent, an aspect of God in the earth realm. And when we impede that through our whatever we've been taught to do and how we've been taught to behave, and you know, we hold back on certain energies, or we push things into the corner, it builds up pressure. And it's almost like water coming through a pipe. It builds up pressure in our soul and in our spirit. We get this pressure. And that's why a lot of us have high blood. I cancel that. A lot of people experience blood pressure problems, headaches, illnesses, diseases, because they're impeding the power of God to be present in their life that would bring forth perfect health and joy. A lot of, we're taught that we're not supposed to be happy all the time. It's funny. We live in a world with supposedly a loving God. He's all powerful and all of this, but we're not supposed to be happy. What is his purpose? Is this the God of the prison camp?
Yeah.
Our existence that exude great happiness and joy to show forth that we know that God is present and we're allowing God to come through.
In regards to opening up to someone, um, what what plan of action must one take? I'm talking about men. What plan of action must one take for men to actually open up? And why do most men refuse to do that?
The first thing it takes is disconnecting from the status quo. We have to have gain an understanding of who we are, our true purpose, our true connection to God, our total acceptance by God. Because God does not, matter of fact, God does not accept us, God celebrates us. And wherever we are and whatever condition we are, God celebrates that, because that's the point to move forward. And when we get to that actualization or realization that I am God's child, He made me in this image, God loves me, and then God gave me some friends that I can open up to. Because if I open up and I'm not authentic, then what I'm gonna give out is gonna get treatment, or it's gonna get comments or feedback to a false person. And many people wondering why they ain't blessed. That's because they're being their fake self. God can't bless the fake person. He don't know who that is. He's like, I don't know who you are. I see you. God sees, as Isaiah says, he sees the end from the beginning. He sees the authentic person. And when we're being fakes and we're putting on masks, I said, when they ask people to put on masks, everybody act like they had such a big problem. I said, we've been wearing masks all this time. We just had on, it just looked like our face.
Yeah. Yep.
So coming to our authentic self is the first step. We have to come to our authentic self and be and have a confidence. And it sometimes we have to open up to people on the way especially if we have a mentor or someone that we know that cares and is unconditional in their love, we may have to get some coaching to get there. And some of us, just like me, I got coaching in silence. I suffered in silence, but I went for coaching. And I would watch Les Brown, Michael Beckwith, Apostle Clapp. I would watch different ones, Oprah Winfrey, Eckhart Tolle, Esther Hicks, until I found my vibration. Bishop Carlton Pearson, even Bishop T.D. Jakes. I listened to some of his sermons till I could find me. And when I found me, then I was able to open up, because I knew there was nobody else I could be. I mean, I could have been somebody else, but it wouldn't have worked.
Yes, sir. And that's a great answer, by the way. So the next question I'm going to ask is in regards to relationships. I've always believed that if you can't open up to your spouse about very sensitive things, that those internal struggles as a man you may have about your mental health, who then can you open up to? Like, let's say a man is watching right now and he can't really open up to his wife or his girlfriend or his partner because he has a fear of retaliation. Well, if I really show her who I really am, will she think little of me? Will she view me differently? And not just relationships, but even friendships. It's hard to really show someone who you really are, because there's that fear in the back of your mind, like, if I really show them who Henry Harris is, will they still stay connected to me? And I think that's why it's important to have a spouse or a friend or someone who likes you for who you are and not for what they think you should be. Because many people, like I said, I did the same thing what you just said, Reverend Fredrick. I wore the mask for years, and I didn't realize that it robbed me from my authenticity, because I spent so many years trying to portray an image that wasn't even me. I lost who I was.
And it takes extreme work.
So what's your response to that? Like, how, if, like, say you're dating someone or relational, how important is it for your spouse or that friend to be sensitive to your mental health, to your needs?
It's very important. It's very important. And this is the reason why, in relationships, you'll find the women say we're going to have a girls' night out, and the guys say we're going to have a guys' night out. And that's because they want to discuss things that they might not necessarily be able to discuss with their partner yet. But as they grow into themselves, when I talk about self-discovery being the greatest discovery, our self-discovery is an eternal, because we're always unfolding, we're always expanding, we're always growing. And there's no end point where it says, oh, this is me. Well, no, because this was me at that moment, but in the next moment, I'm growing and expanding, and all of us are. And having, those forums, sometimes it might be guys' night out, girls' night out, whatever, or it might just be a close friend or pastor or old childhood friend that you can actually discuss things with. Sometimes that is the first step or the second part of the steps in getting things out. It could be part of the first step, in coming to yourself. And then having a partner that grows with you into that space where they can be unconditional and they can love themselves, because they're going to have to be growing too. Some people grow apart because one is growing and the other one is stagnant, or, however that works. Sometimes they grow apart. But having a partner that understands you and can accept your mental health, and I always say this, can help you unpack your baggage, because all of us got some. That baggage part is what we keep in the background. We don't want nobody to see that. We were like, I just arrived and we have a shiny little bag. And we were like, this is it. We're like, no, I see a suitcase behind you with some wheels on it. and we are afraid sometimes to open that one up.
Yep.
Because we're like, ooh, if I open that one up, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? But as we grow together, people, and I think this comes, sometimes we don't teach this. Families, moms should teach their daughters, dads should teach their sons. We're going to all have baggage. You're going to need to unlock that stuff, because the longer you carry it along with you, the greater it's going to grow. It's going to just get bigger and bigger. Unpack it. If it just has to be with the guys, unpack it with them and say, look, man, this has been on my mind. This has been in my heart, and it's hindering me from forming a good relationship, first of all, with myself. And then it's hurting me from forming a relationship with my partner.
Mm-hmm.
How is suicide and suffering in silence related? How is that connected? And what can we do as a society to prevent these type of tragic events from happening? I know women commit suicide, but we're specifically talking about men.
Right. Wow. I think for the most part, I would say my statistics says to me 65 to 70% of us have considered it. And we probably didn't have the means to carry it out, nor the courage, but we had considered it. What would it be like if I was not here? And to suffer in silence and not have an outlet increases those opportunities for those thoughts to be present, because the pressure has got to get out. It's like a pressure cooker. Sooner or later, that pressure vessel, when in one of the businesses that I work in, we do pressure vessel tests. And there's only but so much pressure that vessel can take before it explodes. And it's the same way with us. We have to have outlets that give us an opportunity to let that pressure off. And I just I pray for people, and I pray for myself too, to be able to have those outlets to let that pressure off. But suffering in silence increases the suicidal thoughts. I mean, that's really where it gets cultivated, because that pressure has to go somewhere, and people just come to sometimes they come to a space where they say, well, I can't let it go, and it's not going to get any better. So this is an idea. This might help me. Some people use drugs, they drink, they smoke, do whatever, or even eat food, sex, the whole nine. A lot of times they find avenues where they abuse themselves and trying to let that pressure off, and that becomes sometimes a slow suicide. They eat themselves to death. They drink themselves to death. They smoke themselves to death. They crack themselves to death. That's a suicide of sorts as well. And I'm praying that we will have more safe spaces. One of my mentees, Adon Kanai, Bermudez Bay, he started a safe space at Inner Growth Ministries some time ago with the students from A&T, and it was so heartening to see people able to express themselves. They cried, they snotted, they got mad, they cursed, they did, they let it out though, and it became so popular. There were so many people that were coming. It was a safe space where people could just be themselves and let the emotions go and receive love. Nobody judged. We hugged, we ministered, we sang, we meditated. We did whatever we had to do to help to, bring balance to those emotions and to those thoughts. And again, suffering in silence for the men, it's like a double-edged sword, because first of all, you're carrying this weight from the society to be this certain person. Now you put it into your coffer, and now it's causing more headaches because you don't have any way to process it. So now you got more weight or more pressure coming in, and you got this pressure that's already there. It's dangerous. It's dangerous what we do in this toxic masculine energy that we have, and expecting men to be Superman. All of us should just put an S on our chest, and then we'll know what's expected. it'll be clear to everybody that this is the way I feel. I feel like you want me to be Superman. And if they don't want you to be Superman, then they need to make that clear that no, I don't expect you to be Superman. I just expect you to be supportive of me. But then in turn, men need the same support.
That's awesome. And Fredrick, I want to say I appreciate you and your friendship. Thank you so much for taking this opportunity to educate us. I definitely learned so much listening to you. I can listen to you all day. And like I told you the other day, this only scratches the surface. There's so much ground to cover in regards to subjects like this. But maybe a line or two, or a question, or something that was shared today may motivate a man to just authentically be himself, or to get help if he needed, or to just walk in authenticity. So I want to say thank you so much for being on the show. I want to encourage those that are watching right now to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, The Brother Henry and You Show. I'll be waiting for you over there. Till next time, we'll see you next week. Well, Perry, you are awesome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, and I appreciate what you're doing too, buddy.
Well, thank you. Because if you allow the world to define you, if you allow friends to define you, if you allow your spouse to define you, or anybody to define you outside of how God sees you, that does open the door to rejection. God bless you. I hope y'all have an amazing day.
Thank you, Brother Henry.
Thank you.
God bless you too. Thank you for having us.